What's going on, race fans? My name's Alex. That's Eileen, and you're watching It's Lights Out F1. And today we're talking the Saudi Arabian GP that just happened today. It just finished up. So if you're watching this and then during the first week, wow, that's all I can say. I don't want to use the same adjectives that I used last time, or the previous time, or the previous time before that, because these last. Honestly,
this whole season.
This season's been crazy. So honestly, I think I just have a little bit of PTSD. I was kind of stressed out. I was kind of very calm at the end. I was kind of silent, and I didn't really say much. She kind of kept asking me what I thought, and I didn't really know what to think because, I'm not a diehard Lewis fan. I'm not a diehard Max fan. I'm more of a McLaren fan. But I also want to see somebody else win in this generation of cars before we switch over. But man, Max is making it hard for me to root for him. I'll tell you that a little bit. But before we get into everything, I just want to remember, like, subscribe, unlike, comment, whatever you want to do.
Don't unsubscribe.
We appreciate everybody that's subscribed and following us. Thank you very much. But yeah, this Saudi Arabian GP definitely gave me PTSD.
PTSD for sure. I'm like, we all need a little bit of emotional support after today, I think. Cheers.
Yeah.
It was a tough one.
So
it was exciting, but it was funny because at the beginning of the race, they're like, this might be the fastest race we've ever finished.
Yeah,
just kidding.
Yeah, they were definitely talking it up. But honestly, this whole weekend, I didn't think it was going to be anything like that. I figured accidents, crashes, mistakes, lots of issues the whole time. And I was a little wrong. And even during the first little bit of today's race, I was kind of wrong, too. I called it to be a boring race, and I was wrong.
Shame on you.
I know. I called it too soon, and maybe I jinxed it, and maybe I jinxed it for the good for everybody.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Yeah. I think for me, I expected it to be tons of red flags even during practice. I was like, they're going to be testing the limits. It's going to be crazy. But especially during qualifying. So to only see one red flag in practice altogether, and then just the one red flag, which really was like the end of qualifying, was kind of surprising to me because we didn't have anything crazy.
No, you're right. I mean,
the race,
it was just
they delivered.
It was just Leclerc that had the major mistake in practice. There was some stuff where people went off track, but no one really made any major mistakes. Yeah. And then even in qualifying, where I thought, Q1, there was going to definitely be some carnage. There really wasn't anything.
No, I know. But I think the thing was the drivers were all so cautious going into this weekend because just considering how, blind the corners were and how, high speed it was, there was a lot of traffic, which, we saw a few times where I think Max, and I don't remember if it was FP3 or if it was Q1 or what it was, on his fast lap where he came into one of the final corners and there was 6 cars.
Oh, yeah, and he had to just back out real quick.
And I'm like, this is crazy. So, just seeing stuff like that, you definitely expected it to be, carnage.
Yeah, I kind of thought there was going to be a lot more accidents than what there were. Definitely from watching some F2 stuff, seeing some of the F2 replay stuff, I thought there was going to be a lot more, but there wasn't. So practice, I don't need to get into it much. It was just...
It was standard.
Standard. We had Hamilton.
We had Verbat. The same peeps.
Yeah.
In practice one.
And practice one, and then Gasly kind of snuck in there for P3 in P2, and then Verstappen and the practice 3 on Saturday kind of topped the charts. But who's running what gas line,
I think the biggest thing with practice and just this weekend in general was Aston Martin was super slow. It was unusual to see Aston Martin.
Even McLaren was kind of slow. I was kind of worried a little bit,
Well, Ricardo did have some
issues.
Yeah, he had a crack in his floorboard or something for I think quali 2. So
yeah,
but it was tough. I mean, even for I think P2 and P3, and Ricardo was in the bottom 10, so unusual to see.
Unusual. So really Saturday qualifying, nighttime, more accurate temperatures perhaps to what today was supposed to be, although today was quite humid and quite warm as well.
The difference between practice on Friday and then Saturday's qualifying and practice was that there was no wind for qualifying. And there really was no wind today during the race, like at all. So it was a big change
hot
from
and humid today.
Yeah, hot and humid at 9 o'clock at night. Good God. These poor dudes out there just dying in heat, like exerting all the energy. I know. But still. Woof.
Yeah. So qualifying was kind of suspenseful a little bit, kind of into Q3. The big one is Q3 is Max had the last flying lap, and he was putting it down. And I mean,
we're just going straight to it. First of all,
I have to, because that's the big on Saturday that was the biggest thing going into the race.
It was the moment.
Yeah,
sure.
That's all everyone was talking about. Oh, how perfect the run was, and it was going to be perfect. I mean, he was hitting every apex within, I don't know, that from the wall.
He was stressing me out. On his final lap, I thought he hit the wall in turn 2, but it was just, he was literally maybe just when you brush by somebody and you feel like the wind kind of move.
Yeah.
That was Max. Just on the limit.
Yeah, on the limit. And I think he was carrying so much momentum and speed on that last apex coming around that big turn. He had to lock up a little bit, and it kind of kept him wide in that dirty area. And, man, I hit the wall.
26 perfect turns. Turn 27.
But there's 27 turns in that lap, so he wasn't perfect the whole way, and you never know.
He was 2.5 tenths up in by the end of sector 2, which sector 1 and 2 he was purple, and so it was just like, okay, he's gone with it, and he was the last person pretty much on their flying lap. Lewis was on provisional pole waiting in the pit lane to figure out what happened. And he came around and we didn't even realize he locked up, I think, on the actual quality lap until they replayed through to see what happened. Yeah, because
it was on the inside tire and the coverage you didn't really got to see. I mean, you kind of,
oh my God.
Yeah, there was not a whole lot of smoke. He just kind of locked up and then released it and kind of pushed him wide.
So he hit the wall with his back tire, hit the throttle a little bit, bounced back on the front, but was smart enough to put it in neutral right away.
Oh, yeah, just downshift, neutral, and just
stop the car. Yeah. So that was our only red flag of qualifying.
Yeah, which I didn't think that was, I was like, oh, wow, we're going to finish qualifying with no red flags on this course that a lot of the guys were kind of saying was dangerous and fast and tight and narrow and yeah.
Yeah, so to see that was heartbreaking. It was heartbreaking.
Yeah, Max, it was heartbreaking. He had a good run going on and
he would have been on pole
for sure.
Not by a little bit, but by a lot. A lot of bit, okay?
A lot of bit.
A lot of bit.
So, yeah, that kind of finalized everything. That kind of set the standards. So Hamilton, Bottas, Verstappen. But we did notice that Leclerc had a really...
He did, but we didn't notice it until after because all eyes were on...
Sure, coverage didn't actually show his lap that put him in 4th, which is kind of sucks. I think that's some of the drawbacks sometimes with...
The title fight?
With the title fight is they're trying to give coverage more to that. But, but sometimes they kind of give coverage and they screw it up and they do a flash of Stroll.
Oh, my God. Here we are again. We're getting strolled. We did not get strolled this race,
we did not get strolled, but sometimes they miss some of the coverage and it's not always just about those top 2 guys. And, I don't think maybe as fans we necessarily care about them or, the camera shot inside the car. Let's see what the midfield are doing because some of these guys are, in the fight of their lives too for that area too. So I think coverage needs to be a little bit better on that aspect because we even missed it at the end of the race too.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
I know we will, but I mean, I'm just saying it's a hot topic. That's why I think I have PTSD from this race today.
We're feeling some type of way. The levels are here. But
yeah. So
I think too the big thing with qualifying is we saw Perez get through, which was good. P5, Gasly right behind him, and Tsunoda. So we saw all the Honda engines were having a really good weekend. Not just just qualifying in general, but practice.
They look reliable. They're good.
They're looking good.
Yeah, they're holding up.
Giovinazzi was P10, so he's got 2 races. Well, as of now, he's got 1 race left with F1 before he moves to Formula E. and he had really great qualifying. And it was interesting on that Q3 run, Norris knocked out Ricciardo down to P11.
Yeah.
But come to find out, Ricciardo was having issues with like a crack in his floorboard. But
Yep.
I know we always got to talk about McLaren.
Yeah, we do, because I do like McLaren.
Yes. So, but yeah, it was good qualifying. We saw Max's dad very emotional in the garage, very emotional. So
yeah, he was upset that his son made a mistake.
He did pull a Toto Wolff, and we don't know if the table's broken. Okay, we don't know if the table actually broke, but it was a double fist slam, which a lot of people, a lot of Max fans, that Orange Army, were feeling it. Okay, it was a heartbreak.
It was.
We were on the couch like, I can't believe it.
I know.
So.
Yeah, but you got to earn it down on the race, I guess, and that's kind of where we were gonna.
Well, the points are earned on Sundays. We all know that. So.
Yeah. So, anything else from Saturday before we move on to the race?
I think the only other big thing was that between FP3 in the morning and then qualifying, we obviously saw some issues where there was a couple people that were, summoned to the stewards, one being Gasly for an incident with Carlos for impeding him. And then one, or should we say two, was Lewis. He had two separate incidents that he was called to the stewards for, which seems to kind of be a regular thing now that we're having a lot of like extra drama where the FIA is summoning people, principals, racers, everything. So yeah, he got summoned for the Nikita situation, which it was pretty scary. That could have been a really big crash where, he wasn't notified that he was right there. He came around the turn.
And that was in practice.
And that was in practice. And same thing with the double yellow flag. It was in practice too. Mm-hmm. And I actually think that it was Carlos where he spun but didn't hit the wall in free practice 3. And they waved the double yellow flags, but it was like an accidental double yellow flags, which is what was determined after. So he got 2 reprimands. Well, 1 reprimand actually, just for the Nikita impeding issue. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that was really the only other big thing that happened.
All right. Yeah, I can't think of anything else, so I think we should move on to the race today.
Actually, the other big thing,
go ahead,
was Bottas had to get a new engine. Not a new engine.
He just had to get
an extra engine that he had in his pool.
Yeah, so he just had to switch it out, which happens regularly.
I think it was FP3. No, well, they had a fuel leak in his engine, so he had to get a new one put in. So, I mean, they were down to the wire, they said, I think right before, but that was really the biggest thing.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what else? Carlos had a little incident in qualifying too.
He did, but so he was pushed down to 15th.
Yeah, he went sideways and just kind of his whip back wing just kind of brushed the wall, kind of bent it up a little bit and kind of.
Yeah, but then he did come back out and then he's like, I'm gonna do it again. Yeah. And he did the same thing at the same area, which you know what? It worked out for him because he still had a really great race today. So.
And he wasn't the only one to go sideways there because that little transition of area, man, you get that car, it gets off balance quickly, and we were seeing racers just go sideways. Yeah. And it was just depending on the momentum and where they were, whether they hit the wall or not. Mm-hmm. So Sunday, today, the main event.
Race day.
Yep. Man, was it exciting. We got to see Will Buxton was back. And honestly, I think I'm a fan of Will. I wish he would be at more races. I think I understand that he's got family and stuff, and
he doesn't want to be on the road like 50 weeks a year.
Yeah, but as an F1 subscriber to the F1 TV, I will say this: that I get accustomed and I get used to the post paddock, the pre paddock pass, all the content that we get throughout the weekend from him.
I personally enjoy him going down the actual starting lineup, super fast, ready to go. And here we are. We've got
so
that's my favorite.
The reason why I bring that up is because today he was talking just how packed the grid was before the race. And I mean, it was just a cluster. There was just people everywhere. Oh
my God. We forgot to talk about the fact that we didn't know if Max was going to have to take a grid penalty for a new gearbox.
Sure, and that, I guess you're right. That was a big deal.
There was a lot of drama on that, open discussion right there. Is what's going on with his, with his engine. Is he going to have issues? Is it going to be like Charles in Monaco? Or are we going to see the same problems?
But they okayed it this morning before the race, and then we got to see him do some reconnaissance laps before the race to see that the engine seemed in the gearbox seemed to be okay. And
I know, but that was kind of like the scary moment. Like, what's going to happen?
I
Did
guess
they make?
you're right.
They make the right decision? Did they not make the right decision?
As you know, some of the Mac fans, you're right. That was probably an issue last night. They probably didn't get much sleep. They were kind of worried about a possible 5-place grid penalty.
Yeah, listen, I know. We have PTSD from the race. There's a lot that happened, okay? So we're kind of forgetting some of the things.
There was a lot,
There was a lot. But
for what I thought was going to be a little, there was a lot.
Oh, my God, I know. But we did think, there could potentially be an issue because the opening, reconnaissance laps, they said, don't stay off your clutch.
You don't try to use the clutch as little as possible.
Oh my God, what does that mean? We were all, what does that mean? Is something wrong with his car? Is something not?
Maybe, as far as I know.
And the last thing anybody wanted to see today was Max have a DNS and not actually start and have the championship be determined by that. So thank God.
Yeah, well, you're right.
Yes. Okay, so Will Buxton's back.
Yep, back to that. So we're, he pretty much does what he normally does, walks down down the grid, hypes everybody up. Max didn't need that gearbox, so he started P3 like he was supposed to. And I don't know what else you could want from him other than he got stuck a couple times by people and his camera guy. I get funny because I work in the entertainment industry, so I laugh when I see that kind of stuff happen. But yeah, let's just get to the race because
there's a lot.
Yes, there is, and we're already in it. So the first start
number 1.
Yeah, the start of the race.
So it was a Mercedes front row lockout, if you guys don't know that already. So it was Lewis and Valtteri, Max P3, P4 was Charles. So we expected carnage at turn 1. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I am not ready for this.
And there wasn't any. It was really a clean first lap.
Yeah.
Everyone got through the first turn. Definitely in the back and in the midfield, it was tight. We saw some of the replays and some of that action where some of them definitely were applying the brakes and they avoided incident and avoided any crashes. So that's fantastic.
We did see Perez lock up and going into turn 1.
Yeah.
Because he was getting ready to hit.
He had a really
Max.
good start.
He had a really good start.
I think he had the best start of the top, within the top guys. We saw some really good moves in the back. I saw Alonso make some moves, and right off the jump. But yeah,
we saw Norris make some moves. Norris had a really good start.
He did, but then he got messed up. Yeah, he had a really good start. You did too.
He did.
But no incidents. Turn 1, turn 2, because turn 2 is really quick right after turn 1, right away.
The scary one.
Yeah.
Where you can connect with the wall very easily. So
if you're on that.
It's a quick turn, the whole track.
So. We kind of got into it, and then we fell into formation. Cars started getting into their long run modes, and I kind of sat back and was kind of getting bored. That's when I called it. Probably lap 3 or 4, I was already like,
there was a lot of presumptions in this race, a lot, because a lot happened. But you did say, well, this race is going to be boring because it's like a Monaco.
I didn't say from what the announcers and what Martin Brundle and Crofty always say. They're like, their analysis is like, it's a Monza, it's a Silverstone, but with Monaco walls, so high speed and no forgiveness, so
which is what we expected.
It is, and so that if you think Monaco, then you think it's hard to overtake. It's once you get in your formation, it's pretty much progression till the end, unless there's some major incidents and you can kind of capitalize, or if it's weather. But we don't really get. I don't think you get too much weather in Saudi Arabia. I know it rains there. Don't get me wrong. I know it does, but
Yeah, I think the first few laps we didn't see much other than I really feel because it was the top 3, so it was.
Lap 2, there was kind of a little bit of movement in the back. They were trying to get their places, but again, there was no major hits, no major nothing. It was just kind of...
There wasn't any drama, is what we're trying to say.
No, yes, you're right. It was kind of just they were trying to fall in line, getting their pace and getting the race, in the first stint, get that going with their tires. But then what we noticed...
What?
It was, lap...
Coming through lap 10.
Yeah, lap 10.
Thinking we're unbothered. We're not unbothered. Something needs to happen to keep this race exciting. This is the 2021 F1 season, guys. We don't go one race without something crazy happening, okay? Whether it's a rain, storm, where we actually don't have a race, but we have a race. But it's not a race, but it's kind of a race.
Points were given.
Race. But red flags, yellow flags, all that craziness. So,
lap 10 comes around. Mick Schumacher hits the wall at the same turn that a lot of the rides were having some issues at, and causes a double yellow flag. Pretty much right away, shuts down the top guys, kind of slows them down. People went in for some pits, and now what we noticed was Valtteri was kind of going a little extra slow, and Max was not having it.
No, he was not.
I think that was because that was possible that Max was going to try and get in there too for some tires, and I think the fact that Valtteri pushed him back a little bit did not allow that to happen, and it allowed for Mercedes to do a two-stop,
a double stack.
A double stack.
Which they did successfully, I think, this time, although Valtteri's pit stop was still over 4 seconds. So
yeah, they did okay.
But yeah, he definitely was going extra slow. Max was not happy. I mean, there was a lot of chatter this whole race, to keep up with. So we still haven't watched the individual onboards to understand everything just yet, but that's on the agenda of things to do. But not happy. Not happy. So Mercedes did come in for a double stack. Max is leading the race under the safety car at this point. Lewis and Valtteri are able to come back out. P2, P3.
Yep.
We don't know what's going to happen. We're thinking it's a Mercedes advantage at this point.
And I was kind of upset at that point. I'm like, oh, man, Max, I think Red Bull kind of screwed the pooch on this one. I think they should have went in. But
well, what we didn't understand was why they pitted Perez. We're like, okay, they're...
And then they put mediums on.
Yeah, they're going to, bring... Everybody's going to come in.
I
was like, Red Bull's pit crew's out. And
yeah.
It's like, oh, well, I guess it's for Perez. So at that point, everybody was coming in. Pretty much the majority, with the exception, I think, of Ricciardo and Ocon, they ended up having, and obviously Verstappen had a really good, we're not coming in. So they moved up into I think Ricciardo was P4, Ocon was P5. So Norris ended up pitting because Norris was the only driver to start on the softs. So I knew for sure he
had to go. It was perfect timing for him, yeah.
But, we go a couple laps under the safety car. Max is not happy. The safety car is going too slow. We need to warm up our tires. There's, like I said, there's a lot of chatter, a lot of things, a lot of people.
But then they red flagged it and brought everybody in for a red flag because they needed to repair one of the barriers that was damaged from the accident. Which
the drama was the barrier damaged or was it just the crypto sign?
They wouldn't have probably done it if it was just a crypto sign, I mean, conspiracy theory wise, yeah, okay.
I don't know, that's kind of what they were saying, but also Lewis was not happy. He's so Max is getting a free pit stop right now. So now it's Red Bull advantage instead of Mercedes advantage.
Definitely, that red flag instantly turned to Red Bull advantage. You're absolutely right.
And obviously Ricciardo and Ocon because
Ricciardo, everyone that stayed out definitely got that advantage. I think their tactics team gambled and they gambled right.
They definitely gambled.
So whoever was in their tactics team and goes, they might red flag it, needs a race because that was a good call for those guys.
That's for sure.
But you never know. Who knows if that was even really what they were thinking. I think they were just, trying to alternate, what everyone else was doing. They were trying to just, do the opposite,
I'm sure.
I guess.
Because if not, they would have been on the same strategy.
But everybody called it a one-stop race. I don't think anyone was going to do a two-stopper. Although I bet most of the teams were banking on the fact that it was probably going to be red flagged and going to be some yellow flags. So,
Yeah, so we had a small intermission there.
Yeah.
There was a little bit of...
10 minutes.
Yeah, there was a little bit of what about this? What about this? What's our strategy going to be? Yada, yada. A little bit of talk.
But then we saw Toto and Lewis kind of get on their scoots and head up. Maybe
that was the next red flag.
Was it the next one? I thought it was this one because he was like, why did they red flag this one?
No, it was the next red flag. It was the next red flag. Tell you, there was a lot of red flags. There was a lot of activity, okay? So try to keep up with us. But no, it was the next one because they went back out. Max was P1. Lewis was P2.
Yep.
Valtteri was P3. So we did another standing start. So we came around during that lap, which was not a formation lap. Lewis was holding.
It was a red flag standing start.
It was a lap behind the safety car. I don't know. Whatever.
A lap behind the safety car to do a standing start.
So so they determined it was good to do a standing start. So
that means there's no rules then for.
Apparently not. So Lewis can just hold up the whole track, which Max was like, he's way further than 10 cars behind me. Like, what's going on? Like,
so typically during a formation lap before the start of the race, you have to maintain a 10 car length distance. No more than that. You can get closer to that. You just can't get farther than that. Yeah. I would say that was definitely for this situation after a red flag. A formation lap is not what it is. It's not called that anymore.
It's a pretend formation lap.
It is, and I guess you're right. I guess so. Then that means no rules. But I think the FIA needs to figure that out and call it a formation lap and create some rules because Lewis was definitely exploiting that. And these guys at this point, they're exploiting every single thing they can. And I don't care who anyone says. There is so much nerves and they're so.
Oh, everybody's stressed.
They're all on edge. They're trying to take any piece of advantage they can get. If it's 1 inch, they'll take it. If it's a centimeter, they'll take it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So anyway, so that was us on the way back to our second start. Okay, second start. Yep. Here we are. So we're lining up.
Yep.
Everyone's
Max is P1. Lewis is P2.
Lewis is on the inside.
Yep.
Valtteri is P3.
Yep. And we got the lights out, and
Lewis gets the better start.
Way better start. Max did not get a very good start for some reason. I think maybe it was that clutch issue, and maybe it was true that there was some issues with the way he had maybe baby it, feather it. He definitely had some traction issues or something. It could have been,
well, they wanted him to be in like low traction mode or something too. That's what they said over the radio. So who knows? But they did say like. The actual start of the race and start number 2, he did have tougher, slower starts, I think, than Lewis. So Lewis, takes
first
lead,
right away, right on turn 1.
Going into the first turn, coming around. Max is right there.
He's on the outside, but Lewis takes the whole entire racing line. So he goes from taking the apex, going all the way to the outside, and he has every right to do that. You're right, he does. And Max.
Okay, so Max, listen. I don't even know, really, but it's like, okay, so Max was pushed wide. He was pushed out of bounds.
Yep. So you could argue that he was pushed out on a race start.
Wide,
yep.
So he has to cut across, but cuts across in front of Lewis, who was taking the actual line. Mm-hmm. So Lewis had to brake and slow up so there wasn't a collision, because he does say that when they come in for the next red flag. But during that time, Ocon, who's in the mix, he's like coming up and he's like, I'm taking advantage of this. Hello.
Yeah, so Ocon definitely, capitalized on that start. He definitely had a really good start too.
So Max was P1, Ocon was P2, Lewis was P3 at that point. Yep. We're coming through that turn 2, and it's just chaos behind them. Like chaos.
Yeah, this time they were not able to keep it together.
What would have happened if we would have just safety car'd and restarted, not red flagged, and just kept it going? Would we have had another red flag? Would we have had 3 more safety?
Probably not. They probably would have.
We would have had some more carnage, I'm sure, but not
not as bad. We wouldn't have lost Sergio. We wouldn't have lost
Russell and
Mazepin. Yeah. For sure. That Mazepin.
So pretty much what happened was we're coming into that turn 2 area, which is super tight, and First of all, everything is super tight.
Yeah, the braking zone into turn
everything
one.
is super tight. And so, like, on the opening lap, everybody's tight already. So they're coming in and, you know, Charles is right there and just clips into Sergio, who is turned sideways. And then Russell's coming, you know, the people that are in the back, Russell's coming around and sees that Sergio is turned sideways. And so he brakes. And then Nikita doesn't realize that he braked. And it was pretty scary to see how hard Nikita hit Russell.
Yeah,
I mean,
it reminded me of that one race. It was last year when they did that great start. And it was just like Carlos and Williams. And it was just carnage.
Yeah, I think it was Austria. I feel like it was Valtteri was the one who like had the start.
Yeah.
And
it reminded me that hit was pretty big, for sure, and that took Mazepin and Russell out
and Sergio out, and then luckily Charles was able to nurse his car back. He had some damage, but yeah. We didn't know about Sergio because we've seen what Red Bull can do in previous races. Like, can they get the car back to the pit lane and actually fix it? Can he go? Can he go?
No, so he got out of the car and they kind of pushed it off the side. But since they decided to red flag this one fairly quickly, brought everyone back in because it was...
Well, you couldn't move Nikita's car and it was so tight there. So.
Right there on turn 1, too. There was no way. So, they red flagged that again for the second red flag. And the memes that we're going to get for Sergio standing waiting for his.
Oh my god! I was like, what's he watching? And
because there was debate.
Like, oh, he's rewatching. He's rewatching the crash, and then it was like he's rewatching himself. But there has been some funny memes because he's standing there like waiting for the Aston Martin car, and like somebody memed a backpack in his hand, like waiting for my dad to pick me up from school. So.
Yeah, so he was waiting because when that gets red flagged, if he can get that car back out to him and he can get it to the pit lane, they might have been able to work on the car during that red flag time and got him back out. But
and listen, at this point we're 2 races to the end of the season, and we're a 5-point difference between Red Bull and Mercedes. So every car counts.
Yeah. So
every car counts.
So Sergio being DNF definitely hurts Red Bull in the
Constructors Cup.
In the Constructors Cup, thank you.
Yeah.
It sucks. That hurts them because I would like to see this battle to go to the end too. And they're only what is it now? 18 points?
No, it's 28.
28.
Is it 28?
I think you said that. It was 28. So that's pretty hard to overcome that unless Lewis and Bottas don't finish.
Yeah.
But
never say never.
I don't see that happening, and
this is the season for anything to happen, Alex. Okay.
Sure.
I'm like, I will never say never. I was like, go. Okay. First of all, sorry to totally cut into this, but all weekend, I think I memorized the multiple ways that Max could have won the championship today.
So did everyone else in that's an F1 thing because it's everywhere. If you're on social media, it's plastered on everybody.
Right.
Like did we post anything about that?
I probably did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Duh. Hello.
Yeah. So did everybody else.
There was a chance. And I said going into the race, I'm like, okay, it's probably not probable, but you know what? I'm not going to say no because there's a very strong chance that it could happen, and if it happens, then it happens.
Yeah. So. Anyways, back to that second red flag that we had. Brought everyone back in, kind of kicked Sergio out, which again hurt Red Bull. And then we saw them just so this is where like the drama of like because
I don't know, there was so much drama. I'm like it's kind of hard to keep. I feel like I need to take a notebook and like a journal.
You got to remember because you almost have to write it down during the race to keep it in your head because Verstappen when he did that illegal. When he came back on the track and turn 2 and took first.
But the thing is,
he was told to give it back, and he didn't. But because it was red. Yeah, there was radio thing you should give that back, but then it got red flagged. So then it brought everybody in real quick, and then that caused all of the radio conversation that none of us have ever heard before, and I'm sure happened for many years with the FIA and the sporting director, because the sporting director has the say on everything, so he can say, hey, let's do this X, Y, and Z before we get the stewards who are the judges of the race involved.
So and Michael Messy.
He's
the king of the FIA.
Yep. He sets the rules and regulations for those racers to race to.
So pretty much like what we're discussing is the restart going into turn 1 when Lewis had the lead going into turn 1, the racing line, and then Max, was kind of pushed wide, so he was forced to go outside of the line. Overtook, but then Lewis slowed down, but Ocon got in front. So it's like, what was right? Like,
Yeah, but you can't overtake. You can't take a lead and capitalize from being off the track. So that was a given. And this is where we saw Toto and Lewis scoot, and then go in through the Williams garage for some reason.
Why were they in the Williams garage? Like, did we figure that out ever? Because I'm like, Lewis is like going to the bathroom or something in the back. I'm like,
I don't think so. I think that was probably a faster way to get out of the paddock and into wherever the FIA's meeting and the stewards are.
Maybe, yeah.
Probably.
Maybe. Okay.
And so they had a conversation. Next thing you know, we hear
like deal or no deal going down on the radio.
Pretty much, Messi gets on the radio with Red Bull and goes,
here's your option.
Here's your options. I would suggest you guys give back the place and go behind Lewis, or however they said. I don't even remember how they said it the first time.
At the time, they said P2.
They did say P2.
And so that was the confusing thing. Well, like, who's going to be P1? Because at the time, Max was P1, and Ocon was P2, Lewis was P3 when we came in for the red flag.
So, like, moments like this is when I see the guys that are talking on the teams. They're much smarter than me, and this is where I see them play dumb, and they do what I would do when I get pulled over by a cop and be like, oh, I didn't know I could do that. You know what I mean? And they're like, they just go, oh, well, let me talk about it for a second. And they just go,
can you give us 1 minute?
Yeah. And it's like, okay.
Exactly.
Like, they've already, I already know the Red Bull team has already discussed everything.
They knew that going outside and taking the advantage. So it was like, how is it going to pan out? Like, what are our options going to be? So, like, it was deal or no deal. Like, if anybody's watched the show, they're like, okay, the guy calls and he's like, I'm going to give you $50,000, and you have multiple amounts of money you can pull from the boxes. You get $50,000. Is it deal or no deal? So that's kind of what I felt like it was, like deal or no deal. You either take this or else. Like, what was going to happen?
Well, they were going to send it all. They were going to let the stewards decide, and that probably could have been a bigger penalty. It could have been a 10-second penalty. It could have been a drive through the pit lane, which
I know, but
would have been way, way, way worse.
Well, yeah, because Max never actually had to pit. I mean, 95% of the racers didn't have to actually pit because of 2 red flags.
Yeah.
So, but no, I mean, for me, I'm just like, I don't know. There was so many other incidents. Like, I feel like Alonso overtook somebody, and I don't know what happened with him. But of course, because they're title protagonists, we're gonna see the bigger focus put on them. So
Michael Messy during this red flag kind of went over to talked to Mercedes and kind of gave them the option to, told them that they talked to Red Bull, said, hey, we're probably going to give you guys the place and stuff like that.
The big thing was it was a little confusing, I think miscommunication at first. So we were like, is it going to be Lewis first and then Max or what? So it ended up being Ocon P1.
Yep.
And then Hamilton P2, Max P3. So
and Red Bull accepted that offer, which was smart.
Yeah, they did accept the offer. So here we go. Start number 3.
Yeah. So they go out for their fake formation lap, which was a little different. They, it wasn't Lewis holding everybody back this time. Although it does seem like some of the back marker, of the grid takes a while for them to get on. And I don't know what that is about. Because those front tires on the front cars definitely cool down a lot. And look, I think in the next few years, I've heard talk that they're not going to even use tire blankets anymore. So that could possibly happen. So maybe that's a good thing too. So they don't have to worry about how high their temperatures are for their tires and if they're in the correct zone or not.
Yeah.
Hopefully these new cars won't require them to be that precise. And the new tires too, because we have different tires with different they're going to warm up way faster because there's not so much air inside that tire.
Yeah, no, I know.
Or airspace, I guess that's how you want to say it.
Yeah, so start number 3.
Start number 3. Yeah, again, lights out, away they went. And
so Lewis got a good start again.
Yeah, no, Casey got a good start, but Max
got a better start.
Max definitely had the best start of the 3 that he had the opportunity to do.
Ready? Okay. Ocon, Lewis, Max. He's got to come up this way.
Yep.
So we're going into turn. Where's your hand? We're going into turn 1. Lewis on the middle.
Yep.
So it was a little sandwich there going into turn 1.
So honestly, Max made a really good start and made a really good decision and went directly on the inside because he saw that Lewis and Ocon were, Ocon had the lead on the outside, and Lewis was definitely going to try and fight for that and kind of push Ocon a little bit to try to take over that lead.
Well, because he saw that in the last.
Yeah, and that's the right move to do, but then it kind of leaves you vulnerable on the inside, and Max just,
especially with how tight that wall is in turn 2.
So I think that was the game plan from as they were talking. That was that was his mindset, and it just worked out in his favor really, really well. And his tires were at the temp really well, and he made that turn perfectly and just kind of took off from there.
So they did make a little bit of contact there between Ocon and Lewis. Yeah. Just a tiny bit, like little sparks, like just a love tap. You know what I mean? Like a little tappity tap.
I don't even think it affected any of the cars at all.
I mean, who knows? Honestly, the front wings were very strong this weekend. Mm-hmm. Surprising to last weekend in Qatar. So, hey, you know what? It is what it is. So, I don't know. We're on start number 3, whatever. I think it's been maybe 16 laps.
Maybe 18, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, there was just so much that happened. So it's really hard to say. We're not going to bore you with the details, but there was, some little bit of incidents between like Yuki and was it Stroll that had contact. Yuki ended up getting a 10-second penalty for it. Caused a little bit of debris. Got a VSC. Here we go.
Yeah.
We're going slow. For me, I was like really struggling through the VSCs. I'm like, is this going to end? The race is only 50 laps.
Even the commentary, they were saying Crofty was like, oh, it's just going to go.
Like, are we going to run out of time?
We're going to do a VSC dual lap because they'll come out of the VSC and they'll go into, race mode again. But then that'll cause a VSC. Yeah. And essentially it kind of was doing that for a moment and, made things interesting for sure.
Mm-hmm. I think the big thing from like the second red flag was that Max ended up coming out on the mediums. So he came out on the mediums.
That was a huge thing. And I can't believe they did that because I thought maybe they would just kept the hards on from the first red flag.
Yeah.
So
I think
he got scared with that start being so poor.
And that's why he had such a good start is he was on the mediums like kind
and
of
everyone else was on
that.
their hards. Yeah, that's probably true. And but I didn't. I'm like they're not going to make it.
Yeah, so we had about 30 laps left.
So then does that mean that Red Bull was thinking there was going to be another red flag or possibly another safety car?
Yeah, the way things swung today, it was like, is it a Mercedes advantage? Is it a Red Bull advantage?
Kind of went back and forth,
We kept getting the VSCs, so we lucked out. We had 3 VSCs. So we had the incident between Yuki. It was Yuki and Vettel because Vettel got hit twice today.
He did. He had a rough day because of that.
Come on. We love Vettel. He deserved better. But so they had contact.
Had a DNF, actually.
And then in the end he ended up not finishing, but really so he had that contact, caused some damage. Then there was later him and Kimi came together.
Caused some damage and took a little bit of damage. Sideboard gone and then you started hearing some of the racers complaining about a lot of debris on the track.
Yeah.
A lot of debris on the track.
Which was interesting. So this is right before the incident of the race, okay? So this is right before lap 37. There is, all of a sudden on the turn, there's like a piece of the Aston Martin. But when we rewatched the actual replay, there wasn't a car. So I'm like, did a ghost throw that out of the truck?
No, I think it was already broken off of the car and it was on the side of the road and the 2 cars that happened to go by it before.
I don't believe in ghosts like that. Okay, I didn't think there was going to throw it on the track.
So, we kept seeing virtual safety cars that kind of clean up the track. And even some of the racers were like, I think it was Alonso. Yeah, he was like, oh, they should have a real safety car. And that probably would have brought everyone back together again and would have caused some other things. But, you know.
I mean, during this whole time, I mean, obviously we're watching the front, but during this whole time, Lewis and Max were like 1 second, 1.2, 1.5 at the most. It was like never got to 2 seconds. So it was very, very close. So, you know, lap 37, almost said 47. 37, yeah. You know, that whole incident happened, and then pretty much it was right after. Oh my God, why am I blanking?
I don't know.
It was right after they started talking about the overtake for like the restart or whatever. Mm-hmm. And they determined they wanted to give him the place back.
They did.
So they're like, okay, Max, give the place back.
And so I think the way that things were happening, it was happening so fast that I think Michael Messi, I think the FIA made a mistake by talking to Red Bull first and then Mercedes. They should have flipped it and told Mercedes first that they were going to give the place back.
So, I mean, it all happened so quick that we don't even know at this point exactly what the onboards sounded like. So I don't want to say I know what Lewis's onboard sounded like, because I don't until we actually watch it.
So all I know now is
what we heard that was publicized was, you know, they were close irregardless. They're coming down that straight. They're basically, hey, Max, we're going to give the place back. Max decides, I'm going to give the place back
right now,
right this second.
Because, you know, because they said, you know, keep it strategic, take the opportunity to do it right.
Keep it strategic, and they were coming into a DRS zone, so let me give it back to him so that I can immediately overtake him. So
he braked hard.
So he braked.
And
Lewis braked.
Yeah.
And so it was like, you know, the whole thing is, oh, did Lewis think it was another safety car? Which,
they're claiming, we don't know for sure, but he's claiming that he didn't know that he had permission to overtake. So I think he was, like you just said.
Well, he didn't. Car? He didn't know, according to what we know right now, until we hear, you know, but we did hear, I don't know who it is, but the guy that gives the message to the engineer from Mercedes, he was like, you just gave it to me right now. I was just getting ready to give it to the engineer to, you know, tell the driver. So it sounds like completely a miscommunication between the FIA and the actual teams.
But,
So pretty much Max slowed down, but it was so significant. It was like 2.7 Gs or something. I don't remember exactly what I read in there, but he slowed down. Lewis didn't know what was going on, and so he's coming up tight and tried to go around him with no time to spare and drove into the back of him.
Yeah, pretty much. You know, he tried to miss them as best he could and got almost missed them, but clipped the side of that front wing and definitely caused side damage, and it was definitely going to.
But do we think like that? Did Max pull over enough?
In this competitive,
he didn't need to pull over.
He didn't need to give. He just needed to slow down to let them happen. And the fact that, I guess you're right, Lewis didn't know that he was slowing down for that. Yeah, I think he left him enough space to get over.
And it was some strategy there as far as like he doesn't want to give him the DRS opportunity. So so
it was all strategy. It's all competition. They're freaking out. They got the race that they're in and one more to win the championship. And
like we said earlier, like no matter what they say,
I don't
tensions,
care.
Like
I don't care what anyone says.
I can only imagine being in both of their seats. The top drivers in all of F1 in the entire world competing like so closely and like both being such good drivers, like it's all on the table. Like I mean, we saw it in qualifying with Max. Like you've got to give it everything you've got. You've got to leave everything on the table. So I don't know. So yeah, they came together and it's unfortunate, but they both were able to keep going. So Max kept going, Lewis kept going. Then, you know, all hell erupted on the radio.
Yeah. So pretty much they were demanding to get that spot back, and they needed to give the spot back.
So Jonathan Wheatley said, let's give the spot back.
Yep.
But then we didn't give this, like Max didn't give the spot back for several laps. And so then they had to, it was Mercedes getting on the radio with the FIA and, hey, like, you know, he needs to slow down.
Yeah,
and
and this is kind of where, that's kind of where I got a little angry and frustrated with Max. And I'm like, man, like, you're really either young and immature and not handling this correctly, because I've never seen anything like this. Commentators haven't really seen anything like this. Yeah, there's been some shady stuff that's happened over the years, for sure. But to break like that so quickly, to use it for your own strategy, and then
it was a little reckless.
It was definitely reckless.
It was a little reckless, but
yeah. So eventually he gave the spot back, but in doing so, he had to go off the track and then to go back on. And I believe that's correct.
No, so
how did he got a 5-second penalty?
Yeah, I know. Oh my God, there's just so much that happened. But anyway, so
he made 3 major mistakes today.
Max was being smart. He was being smart as far as when he was going to give the position back to him. So finally, he determined on the final straight, I'm going to give it back to him, and he gave it back to him right at the end of DRS, and Max was able to overtake him into turn 1.
Yep.
And pretty much then it was like, okay, he overtook him, but I don't think he went on the outside just to go on the outside to overtake him for an advantage. I actually think he lost his back tires, and because you see his car go a little squirrely, and then he ends up overtaking Lewis, and that's where he gets the 5-second penalty for overtaking. Yep. And it's like, for me, I'm like, I kind of get it why Max is frustrated. Like, did he really need to get a 5-second penalty for that?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess, but he did, and he stayed out front, and
he did, yeah. But then
Lewis had pretty much.
And here's the thing: is he's on the mediums, and he's on the mediums, pushing it to the limit. Lewis is right behind him, within a second and a half, and I'm like, oh my God, his tire, are they going to last to the end? What's it going to look like for him? And so, to give him a 5-second penalty for something that probably was he just got pushed out.
Yeah, and there was no way he was going to get 5 seconds ahead of Lewis. So
there wasn't, but for me, I'm like, I think it beat his own, I guess, I can't think of the word right now. Why am I blanking? But his own, drive to want to win the race.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely is. Yeah, he's just oh.
And so he's like, okay, I'm never gonna get 5 seconds ahead. When he probably with defense could have been a good battle in those last few races.
Laps,
last few laps. But I think he was just beat down. It was a lot, I think, on everybody for the race.
Oh yeah, this race was intense for them for sure. And yeah, so Lewis got within the second, got DRS.
And then it was interesting because I feel like Max gave it back to him again.
Yeah.
So he had he gave it back to him. Jonathan Wheatley came on and was like, I don't think you needed to do that.
Yeah, he didn't, but he did. And
so he gave it back. His tires, I think it was just about getting them back.
Then his tires were gone.
At that point, they were so far ahead. He didn't have the gap to be able to pit for fastest lap. So
not with that 5-second penalty. That's what ruined it, because he would have been able to pit.
Thank God they didn't try to push it, though, just given, obviously, the circumstance with the crash and the outcome of that.
And everything, yeah.
Yeah, so it was a lot. So Lewis, of course, he ended up winning 103 poles, 103 wins. The world is perfectly balanced for Lewis, but
he's zen.
We are now tied at 369.5 to 369.5 going into the final race.
Yeah,
of the season.
Yeah, Max definitely wasn't happy at the end of the race. He was over the whole entire thing, and
he was. But
he went home before everybody else, I bet.
Before we move on to that, I just need to talk about P3 because the whole race,
which they didn't even televise.
I know.
You had to watch it on replay, but we were watching it. We were watching it on the timer.
Breakdown. Yeah. So the whole race, I'm like, okay, so. We forgot to mention, because there's been so much, that during start number 3, Valtteri did have a tough start, and so he ended up falling back. So he was in P5 at that point. So the battle was for him to overcome Ricciardo and then overcome Ocon, who was obviously sitting pretty comfortably in P3 at that point.
He was, and it took him a minute to get there. And the last few laps, he was right there within the second, got the DRS, and we saw that.
Oh my God, it was
Valtteri made a pass.
Yep, made a pass. We didn't see it on screen.
But then coming out of turn 2, I can guarantee you it was in turn 1 because he got the DRS on the main straight, and then passed him. But then braking zone into turn 1, turn 2, he was able to probably get back in front because it was really quick. It was like Valtteri on front, and then it was quick, and then but he was still right there, held his own.
Yeah. So
and the very last lap on the very last turn,
Oh my God. I was saying it because I'm like, I was looking at the times, and I'm like, they were what, 20 something seconds behind.
22 or something.
Lewis came in and it was like, Lewis, you win. And then it was like, Max came in, like, whatever, you win. And I'm like, what about Valtteri? Like, what's happening? You know, so I'm watching. He's gaining and gaining. And so I knew it was going to be down to the finish line. And they came across and you just see Valtteri like, so
yeah,
it was exciting for me because, last race he had really bad luck and, stayed out too long on his tires, had the puncture. This season has been tough for him just with like DNFs and stuff. And it's his last season with Mercedes. So I was like, I wanted to see, I feel like I've said all season, I wanted good for Valtteri.
Well, so, the thing is he's a good person and he's a good teammate, probably the best teammate anyone could ever have.
Yeah.
Lewis is lucky to have him. And, it's unfortunate that he only was getting year-to-year contracts. He deserved more than that, and that's why he's going to Alfa Romeo. He's going to have a few years to sit there and work, and he's going to be confident to know that he's got a seat for a little while because he's still a really good driver.
He's going to be the teacher now.
Yeah, he's got to teach some young bucks.
Yeah. So that happened.
Yeah. So the race kind of over.
Max was driver of the day,
which I don't disagree with. I don't know if I like that at all. I don't even want to talk about it anymore. But who was your driver?
You just said you don't want to disagree with it.
I know, and I said it wrong because I do want to disagree with that because
I don't know. It's tough. I'm like,
who was your driver of the day?
I said initially my driver of the day was Bottas because he did come from behind and he secured the points for Mercedes. And it was like the most exciting part to the finish. So other than that, I really think, Lewis being able to pump out fastest laps with a broken front broken front wing, that was pretty impressive. So for me, staying cool in that situation, I feel like Lewis had a really good race.
Yeah, so. I'm going to give Hamilton my driver of the day as well. He stayed cool, calm, collective. Yeah, you heard him whining a little bit about the grid start in the pit lane when they started a little bit, here and there. I don't care about that. He's a veteran. He's a seasoned pro. He's in control of this championship right now. I think it's
three races in a row.
I think it's for him. He's got all the momentum. He's got the car. Max has a lot to do for this last week, and honestly, it's a back-to-back weekend. We start a new race week tomorrow. So we get to go to the final race, which is in
Abu Dhabi, but the new circuit.
The new time, which I heard is 11 seconds faster.
It's faster. So, just if this weekend was a heart attack for you guys and us, oh my God. It was. Get ready. Buckle up.
Yeah, we're even.
Next week.
It's pretty much 0-0 and winner take all. Winner take all. That's all I can say.
Yes.
So,
which is exactly what we wanted.
But here's I'm gonna play devil's keeper on this one real quick. So if Max and Lewis come together, they both DNF. Max wins because of the 3 points in Spa.
Because of the race win in Spa. So
because of the race win in Spa gives them more race wins.
Max has 9 wins this season. Lewis has 8 now. But Spa, was it a race or was it not a race?
I think it was a race. They had to do something.
If at the end of the day, it was not a race for me. But if we're gonna gauge it on anything, it was qualifying, and Max was top qualifying.
Yeah, so you had to give something for that.
Yeah.
Look, we give points for the sprint races that we did this year. So
I think, hold on, no matter the way the cookie crumbles, this was by far the most exciting season. And I know there's a lot.
But this is only your second season too, so think about that.
It's not, I know.
It's not. You're right. I've made.
Try to shame me.
I'm not going to shame you.
I haven't watched old races.
You're right. And I was just going to say that. I've made you watch a lot of old races too.
I watched them on my own as well. But anyways, thanks for stealing my thunder. But I know everybody can agree with me, regardless. If this is your first season or if it wasn't. It's not normal to see races this exciting, and we have said every single weekend.
It's been a long time.
This is my favorite race, or this is my favorite race, or I think this is the best race of the season. Starting from Bahrain, if the 2021 season had a trailer, it would be Bahrain for Max and Lewis.
Yeah.
And the battle has been on the entire time. So
it hasn't stopped.
It hasn't stopped.
No.
And we are loving it. So
Yeah, and I'm kind of sad that it's kind of over, but you know.
But next year is a new battle, and it's new cars and new regulations, and just new tires, new everything. So
yeah, so I guess this kind of wraps up our Saudi Arabian GP podcast that we were talking about today. Next week we will be back with you guys talking the championship, the Saudi or the
Constructors
the Abu
Championship,
Dhabi
the
race.
Drivers Championship.
Yeah, it all
the Abu
comes
Dhabi
down to
race,
next week, and I think
and
everyone.
probably the Secret Santa that they do together.
Yeah, so you know, we're winding down. I've been very fortunate to be able to talk F1 with you. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's been a joy.
Yeah, thank you for the fans. We got subscribers.
Yeah, thank you to our new subscribers. We're very thankful for you guys, and you know, if you're not following us on Instagram, come find us.
Yeah,
it's lights out F1 _ and
yeah,
looking forward to the end. Be prepared. Have snacks. Have some water. You're probably going to be walking around a lot during the race.
Yeah, this last one's going to be a big one because this is again.
And no matter who you're a fan of, we're all a fan of racing. Yeah. So this has been great. So.
All right, we'll see you guys next week. All right. See ya.
Bye.